I can understand why Singaporeans are very concerned and worried about the situation. But really, let me explain why there is no need to go out and rush to stockpile items. First, we are not locking down our city. Life goes on even in DORSCON Orange. Just this weekend alone, I was out and about in my constituency, but we take precautions. So every participant, we make sure we take the temperature, and we also encourage people not to shake hands, use alternative forms of greetings. Second reason, there is no global shortage of food items or toilet paper. This is very different from the situation with surgical masks, where there has been a global scramble for supplies. With food and toilet paper, we can get them anytime. So there is really no need to rush to buy them.
Right. Well, inevitably for a lot of Singaporeans, especially as things change going forward, right, new developments might come up. They might think, it's better to be safe than sorry. I'd rather stockpile some things at home in case I have to be quarantined, for example. What would you say to these people who are just looking out for their families?
Well, I mean, I can truly appreciate that some people would want to be proactive and they want to buy some items ahead and make sure that they have them readily available to protect themselves and their family members. But just do bear in mind, in today's world, the actions of a few can be easily amplified by social media. And then it will have ripple effects across the whole of society. So I think that's one of the reasons that resulted in the recent wave of panic buying. But I think the wave has passed and the situation is now much calmer.
All right. Let's talk a bit about what set this off, right? I think a lot of it was the DORSCON alert being raised to orange. Let's zoom in on what DORSCON really is, what the intent behind it really is. What are we trying to communicate to the public when we raise DORSCON alerts?
Well, DORSCON is a framework to inform the public about an infectious disease outbreak and what we can do to protect ourselves. We put in place this framework after SARS. We have had some years working with it. In fact, people may not remember, but in the 2009 flu pandemic, we operated the framework. We raised it to orange too at that time. This time around, we raised the alert levels to orange because we've seen in recent days the emergence of cases where we could not trace the source of the infection. That suggests that the virus is already circulating within our own population. And that's why we felt there was a need to heighten the alert levels, to take more stringent measures and to take extra precautions. And the DORSCON framework is a way for us to communicate all that to the public.
Well, Minister, in your view, which are the segments in society that will be most impacted by a DORSCON orange situation? And what advice would you have for them to make sure things go on as normally as possible and there's very little disruption?
Actually, it really impacts everyone in society. This is not a situation where we say some groups are impacted and I hope that I will not be inconvenienced. Really, everyone has to do their part. So the precautions are there. And it will result in inconveniences for everyone, whether it's an event organizer that has to cancel or postpone an event, or suspension of school activities, taking of temperatures at the workplaces or at homes. These are all things that everyone has to do. And if we all stay vigilant and take these precautionary measures, then I think we have a chance of helping to contain the spread of the virus.
Well, speaking of things that would help to contain the spread is also the spread of information. In this case, the government has been quite forthcoming with putting out information that people need to know. Understandably, it can't be 100% disclosure because there's some very sensitive parts of information that the public should not know. For example, the personal details of people who are confirmed cases. What goes through your mind when it comes to deciding what to put out to the public and what to withhold?
We will put out all information so long as there is a public health interest at stake. So any information that would be useful for the public to know in order to contain community transmission of the virus, we will readily put out that information as we have been doing. But if the information is not relevant to public health interest, then I think we have a duty to also protect clinical confidentiality and respect individuals' privacy.
In this case, given that there will inevitably be gaps in information, it could be something that people could exploit in terms of spreading rumors, misinformation, creating panic. What is your advice when it comes to tackling fake news or preventing the spread of that in this situation?
Well, whether there is a gap in information or whether the information is available, I think if a person wants to, be up to no good, they can easily distort, twist, and manipulate information that is available anyway. Right? So I think it all comes back to individual responsibility, how we make use of the information that is out there in a responsible manner, and how all of us have to do our part to avoid spreading fake news, rumors, or unverified information. So those are norms I hope through this challenging situation we can gradually uphold in Singapore.
In the case of perhaps our viewers who are also receiving a lot of these texts or people who are panicking in that sense, how do we tell the difference between what's fake and what's not? Because I myself have received a lot of this from relatives and they're all panicking and asking, is this real, is this not? So on an individual level, as you're saying, there is a responsibility to do this. How can we do that in the easiest way possible?
Well, there are different ways. Of course, you check with government websites and government sources. If the source originates from a government website, gov.sg/MOH, then, that's a credible source. The mainstream media is a credible source. Certainly in Singapore it is. So anything that emanates from mainstream media, including MediaCorp, that's a credible source. And there are also many other credible sources out there. So rely on credible sources, where the sources may not be verifiable, may be something new that you've seen for the first time, then have a pause, check against other information that you have before you share the information. Or if you would like to share it, then put in a qualifier.
Right, there's definitely individual responsibility there as well, to be careful each time we receive a piece of information. Now also, the idea that leaders, including the Prime Minister, have actually hinted that we might, or the government might change their approach to dealing with the virus should things worsen or should things change. For example, maybe perhaps people with even very minor symptoms might be asked to stay at home, even if it's just cold symptoms. How far away are we from this situation? What kind of measures are likely to kick in as the next step?
Well, we have been thinking ahead and anticipating the next few steps. So we have highlighted some plausible or possible scenarios of how the situation can unfold. But I think it's too early to say what will happen. The scenarios are there, but the scenarios are not predictions. A lot will depend on the nature of the virus, which scientists everywhere are still trying to learn more about, and new data and information is coming out from China every day. So as more information is gathered, as we learn more, then we will have a better sense of how to deal with this virus situation. But for now, I would say our measures are in place, and I would call on all Singaporeans to stay calm, take sensible precautions, and all of us do our part together to defeat the virus. And if we stay united, we work together, I am confident that we can prevail.